now for the Shop Report with
Barbershop Jay.
What up, sports fans? Welcome to the Shop Report. I'm Barbershop Jay. I'll be your host for the day. Here's what's happening. Yes, we are live here, coming to you live right here on Spreaker.com. And before I get to the topics we will discuss today, I want to apologize for the late start. It was something on my end. As always, it seems to be a technical difficulty. But nonetheless, let me introduce my guest for today. As always, I got from the NYC, a.k.a. Rucker Park, Brother Rich. To the left of me, Brother Rich, what's happening?
Always honored to be on with you as well.
And my man over to my right from up north, Joey James, a.k.a. Double J. Double J, tell the people what you say.
Honor and a pleasure. Looking forward to diving into these topics today.
Good deal. Good deal. Before we get started, of course, I want to give out the call-in number. If you're out there, up and around, out and about, and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. We, of course, will be mentioning that throughout the show. The show today, we are going for a while, commercial-free, as always, because we got a lot we want to dive into. Or actually, not really a lot, but the way we're going to discuss it, of course, is going to be very, very detailed for you. So, again, that number to call, if you're out there and you want to give us a holler and weigh in on what we got to say today, area code 267-687-0026. All right. Before we dive into some of this action today, or the entree, as I like to say, let me point out two quick things. First of all, congratulations to the University of Virginia for winning the National Championship. I believe Brother Richard, Double J, and D. Gully, who might be joining us a little bit later on in the show, you all picked Virginia to win it, whereas alas, I, of course, picked Texas Tech. So I want to congratulate you all for picking Virginia, I do believe. We'll have to go back and check the annals of the show, the last show, of course. And I also want to, again, congratulate the University of Virginia, the Cavaliers, especially after what happened, or on the heels of what happened to them last year in the tournament. First round exit, the unexpected, being beat by UMBC. So, to turn around the following year and win it all, that's just a nice cap off, if you ask me. And I also wanted to say, I wish I could call him. I wish I could talk to him. But we all know who Colin Cowherd is, right? Okay. This is just a little tidbit
yes,
for
sir.
all you folks out there who swear up and down that Odell Beckham Jr. didn't want to come here, because that's what Colin Cowherd was pushing. He said on one of his shows, I didn't listen to it. A friend of mine sent it to me or whatever, and I didn't need to listen to all of it to know, this was absurd. Okay, OBJ don't want to be there. He heard it from a source. You all know how I feel about sources, right? If you're going to put what a source said out there, then you might as well go and put his name out there. I know I would, so I'm just letting you all know while we cool and everything. Don't tell me something that could be said on the air, but then don't say it on the air, and you don't think I'm going to say it and not mention your name. Did you get all of that? Okay, good. So I don't like this whole idea, but Cowherd, of course, says, well, according to a source, my source, a close source, well, again, the OBJ don't want to be there. Well, guess what? Another guy on the flip side has some stuff to say about not Cowherd, but about the OBJ, or the Odell Beckham Jr. joining the Browns. And this gentleman, his opinion is carries a lot more weight with me. Excuse me. Chris Carter, here's what he had to say. And I want you all to tell me, Brother Rich and Double J, of course, if you agree. Jarvis knows Odell. Them getting back to grinding, working out together, talking with Baker, falling back in love with the process of building yourself into a player. I believe, and I too, Barbershop J, we're going to see the best Odell, that we've ever seen. Brother Rich, go first. Briefly tell us, do you agree or disagree?
Well, sources do originate someplace now. And I'm not going to dismiss all sources. Sources have some origination.
Okay,
so
I'm gonna. Let me just say this right quick. You're right, sources. I don't have sources. I just know people. Continue.
Well, I also know that I like so many people wondered how would he take to being traded from New York to Cleveland. So I'm not surprised if there's some rumbling that initially that he was affected by that trade. I can understand that. I'm sorry. I can understand that. Nevertheless, I think that he's adjusting and adjusted to it and sees an opportunity where he can perhaps show his doubters and show his haters and prove them wrong. I believe this is what he's going to do here.
Okay, Double J, before you weigh in, I'm with you, bro, Rich, because we've had this discussion before on the show and in private as well. I'm with you. We already know there are certain cities when it comes to sports and so on. So we've had the discussion that many consider to be purgatory. I get that. This is not what this show is for today, but I'll say this as well. The portion of what Chris Carter said in regards to this that I think carries a lot of weight, maybe most of the weight, is the fact that he got his boy with him. See, Jarvis and Odell were down there at LSU, right? So when you come to a place here, your initial reaction may be like, oh, man, really? That's how they play? But when you see your boy there and you see the effort that your boy done put into it, and his boy in this case being, of course, Jarvis Landry again, especially that Hard Knocks when Landry went in and kind of put all the Browns players who were there before him on blast, like, what y'all doing? Now, one of y'all was 0-16. When you got a guy that got that kind of fire and now you link back up with him, that's what makes me think that I lean more towards what Chris Carter is saying here. You got your boy. Baker is a winner. These three dudes are the core of what it is that you're trying to, if you're the Browns, rebuild or rebuilding, I believe. When you get with them cats, man, you can kind of be okay with your situation, all right? People's minds can be changed, or your mind can change. You say, you know what, I'm going here, but you know what, hey, so you get in and you meet somebody, or you get to hook up with somebody and you cool with this cat, and you say all of a sudden, yeah, your situation don't look so bad if that be the case. Go ahead, Double J, weigh in.
No, I think I'm going to second that, is that he is going to be in familiar territory with Landry. He's going to have, again, that, any potential chip on his shoulder that would have been a direct result from the trade is only going to serve as motivation. These are professional athletes that are not, generally speaking, fazed by small media chatter or conversation. However, they are human, and, if he took it personally, then it's, what better way to help yourself, make sure that you don't get in your own head negatively than to be reunited with an old teammate, to have a young quarterback who's excited to have you, and to be a part, of something special. As they say, kill them with success.
Indeed. For whatever reason, I just think this is going to work out. You feel what I mean? I do. You know what I mean? I see a difference. I can feel a difference, and I can see a difference, a concrete difference. But I'm with you, though, Brother Rich. Again, we've had this conversation before. I get it. I've had people tell me the same things that you and I have discussed in regards to all of this. But I'm just thinking this one will work. Okay, let us begin with dare I say, hot topic or hottest topic of the day, so to speak? And if not the hottest topic of the day, it sure was a hot topic a couple of days ago, and I believe because we picked it today, of course, there's still some relevancy. This whole Duke Nike bribery allegation thing that's going on. Now, the attorney in question, the whistleblower guy, I'm not familiar with him, so maybe you all could help me out in understanding who this guy is. And I did look him up, and I'll ask that, not right in this instance, but following this, I'll ask, who is Michael Avenatti, if I'm saying that correctly. But right now, Michael Avenatti is a celebrity attorney, and he was arrested in March for allegedly attempting to extort Nike for $20 million, and then on top of which he tossed Duke freshman Zion Williamson under the bus in a social media firestorm that followed. So, Double J, let me ask you, what's the fallout from this for Duke and Zion, if any?
Well, right now, I think the biggest fallout is not going to be to the names in all of this, which are Zion, the brand being Nike, and, of course, to Michael Avenatti. Then the reason being is, as you mentioned, the extortion aspect of this case, or leading into this case, essentially here where the chips are going to fall, and the biggest detrimental impact is going to be had is going to be, again, with the NCAA, because we've seen these same accusations take place time and time again, dating back to the 1980s with SMU. I've myself, I've been around a number of professional athletes, and, when you privately ask that question about any type of compensation, they kind of just snicker, where it's at a point where we're numb to the fact that this has not only been happening, but, it's almost a part of the culture.
It's become the norm.
Again, yes. Unfortunately, it's become a societal norm that these kids are getting compensated. And the main reason why I think all of us understand that is when we look at professional sports and we talk about these athletes and being able to be compensated and marketable based on the market that they are in, how can one really believe that by going to the state of Kansas or to Tobacco Road in North Carolina, which has only a select few professional franchises, that by doing so in the collegiate ranks, you're actually more marketable, or that's where you're the most marketable. And you can't really buy that using the same type of facts that you would for the four major sports that we're in, that we have professionally. And so that right there is where it lives and dies with me, that it is blatantly obvious. And if you are a Nike rep or an Adidas rep, naturally, if your brand has an agreement with a particular university, well, you need more units sold, whether that be in the form of shoes, jerseys, just apparel overall. That is how you go to market. Yeah. It is going to hurt your brand when you gave hundreds of millions of dollars to these same universities, and they're not, recruiting at a high level.
Okay. So, Brother Rich, before you answer, this next one is for you. Let me read a little further into the article I found, and also I want to read a comment from a fellow Facebook sports colleague who's in a group. His name is Vince Frame, like picture frame. He's in a group called Cleveland Talks Sports. But let me read this to you first. So it's two parts for you. Aventi named Nike executive Carlton DeBose. He said, Aventi did, that Carlton in particular bribed Williamson and over 100 other high school basketball athletes over the past 4 years to play for swoosh-sponsored programs. Aventi also attests that Williamson's mother, Sharonda Sampson, received money from Nike during her son's recruitment to attend Duke. And here's what I find interesting. Aventi has stuck to the same story since he and another attorney that has not been named, at least I haven't seen, threatened to release damaging information about Nike if it did not meet his demands after his arrest in March. Now, that's from the article. The comment from Mr. Vince Frame I thought was interesting. He said, "It kills me that the schools can get money from these big corporations and then raise tuitions knowing it's struggling families out here." Shaking my head. Okay, Brother Rich, go.
Jay, I mean, this is classic, good old-fashioned American hypocrisy. Come on now. Michael Avenatti is not innocent in this. He's been privy to all this information as an attorney. He knows, everybody knows what Nike does. What Double J was saying is, we know this. When you go to Tobacco Road to play basketball, you're going to the professional program of North Carolina. Duke and UNC, those are the professional basketball programs of North Carolina. The Charlotte Bobcats or Hornets, they're just catching up in terms of the level of professionalism that you're engaged in when you're playing at those institutions. So let's be honest. Everybody knows tremendous amounts of money is exchanging hands. The hypocrisy here is, now what's going to happen to Zion? Nothing. All that happens to him is He's just another example of the fact that this is a paid business, and the only people who really are making any substantial money here are the corporations. Is Nike. The NCAA is not going to get rid of Nike. They're not going to injure their relationship with Nike when they outfit half the teams in the NCAA, and you got universities like Duke and Oregon who have these massive Nike contracts so that their players have to wear these shoes. It's no wonder players are starting to make quote-unquote side deals. It's encouraging a certain measure of corruption that says, oh, man, everybody got theirs. Why don't you get yours? If it's the natural conversation among everyone now that everybody's getting theirs other than the players, why would a player not say, I hope he got a $5 million? I don't think $500,000 or $50,000 or the amount. The issue with them is they don't get enough. They don't think enough of themselves. That's it.
Okay, Double J, this one's for you. So then where does Duke's Coach K fit in all of this? Because Krzyzewski, of course, was I guess he was interviewed, by authorities on whether or not Williams' mother was paid fake consulting fees, but he did not comment on, Aventi's allegations, while at the earlier part of this tournament while it was going on. So where does Coach K fall?
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is, yes, when ultimately when these kids go to school blank, and in this case Duke, the coach is only aware of so much. Again, you can't be monitoring the kids 24/7. I understand that, yes, they basically are there to be, professional athletes at these, blue chip universities. However, no different than in Michigan State's case when they had those horrific accusations with that team doctor. Tom Izzo was even questioned within that, and there's a lot of things that I just simply don't believe that these coaches are turning a blind eye to, but they're simply unaware. Because if you look at the last year's issue with the reps, again, those were, for the most part, yes, sure, there were a handful of coaches that were involved with them, specifically Arizona. But generally speaking, it's between the adult, figure for, representative for the student athlete and the brand representative. And so because a lot of these have to do more so with where they're going to play, not who they're playing for at that point when these are happening.
Yeah. I just want to mention the call-in number again here if you're out there listening. That area code is 267-687-0026. Right now we are currently discussing the Duke Nike Michael Avenatti bribery scandal. Brother Richard, this is for you. From Nike's point of view, so to speak, in regards to all of this. Prior to the Final Four, Nike says they will not respond to the allegations, and I'm quoting verbatim here, of an individual facing federal charges of fraud and extortion and aid in his disgraceful attempts to distract from the athletes on the court at the height of the tournament. Now, here's why I ask you that. Is that in some shape, form, or fashion putting Avenatti, now aside from him being a corrupt guy, so to speak, is that putting him in the, I don't know, like the Jose Canseco, Tim Donaghy, like he's just bitter, trying to, like he's the lone wolf in all of this? Avenatti, that is.
Here's the thing, Jay. Everybody knows that Avenatti is telling the truth. The problem with Avenatti is he's the wrong messenger. And this is the second battle that he's picked to go up against an opponent that's much bigger and stronger than him. First battle he picked to go up against the president of the United States of America, and we see where that got him. Now he's picked the largest corporation in sports, and probably in sports history, to fight them. You're not going to win against Nike. Let's be real about that. So Nike doesn't even have to pay him any attention other than to issue a statement where they're just disrespecting him in terms of who and what he could ever be, because they're not going to pay attention to him. They don't have any. Nike doesn't have to give him any credence, any kind of they have to put any focus in other than to say, listen, man, look at this man. This man is a convicted criminal, and that's what he is. Let's be honest. He'll be a convicted felon soon because he has something like 30-something pending charges against him. So it's not going to be any short distance for him anytime soon. It's not going to be any short distance for him.
Yeah, and, that's why I'm glad you said that, because that lends itself to or leads right into who is Michael Avenatti. And just briefly, I knew I had heard the name before, but I wasn't sure, like, where I'd heard it. Well, turns out, seeing how I'm a big fan of racing, that's sort of like I don't like the whole left-hand turn thing. The cars look cool and all of that, and with the sponsors on the side of them. No offense to that entity that will not be named here. I'm a Le Mans kind of guy. I like when they race in Italy and Abu Dhabi and all of that, where they really got to know how to drive, so to speak. Well, he was a race car driver, this Avenatti was, in 2010. And he done raced in about maybe 30, 40 professional races. He raced in the American Le Mans, the FIA World Endurance Championship, the Porsche Super Cup. That Porsche Super Cup is a good one, by the way. The United Sports Car Championship races. So this guy got his hands in everything. But he's also, if you didn't know, connected to this whole Stormy Daniels thing. In 2017, a man named Gerald Tobin alleged Avenatti failed to pay him $28,700 for private investigatory work. Am I saying that correctly? Can't talk here for whatever reason. So, and I'm not going to go into the whole detail. If you want, you can check it out on Wikipedia. Look up Michael Avenatti, and you'll see that his track record is pockmarked. You know what I mean? So, Brother Rich, this is still with you. Are you saying essentially that this is akin to the government using a jailhouse snitch or whatever it is to convict? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And we got to look at his record.
Okay, got you. All right, got you. So they're going to look at his record, and it really maybe validates more so than in the case of Canseco and Donaghy, this guy might be bitter. You know what I mean? He was mad because they wouldn't give him. But $20 million, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot to me and you. To me maybe, but that's not a lot to Nike and Michael Avenatti. So at the end of the day, Double J, this one is for you. When this all shakes itself out, it will be fill in the blank what? And for you too, Brother Rich, we'll let Double J go ahead.
Will be status quo.
Gotcha. Okay. Par for the course.
Exactly.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Brother Rich, you too. I want you to also weigh in. But you know what? Let me ask you as well. I didn't get to this. Do you think that, because we've seen instances now, when the violations occur, regardless of what they are, where team wins have been vacated. Do you think Duke will have to vacate any wins? Should this thing, turn out to be what is being alleged here?
Is that my question?
Yes. Brother Rich.
Well, I, of course they'll have to vacate some wins. But again, they didn't win the title, and who cares about that? Zion will be in the league next year, and nothing's going to happen to Krzyzewski, and it's going to be business as usual. Again, this is Tobacco Road. Duke has a contract with Nike. North Carolina has a contract with Nike. Nike has contracts with the NBA, most of the NFL teams. Who's gonna touch Nike? No, this is going to blow right over.
Got you. So in other words, those contracts are bigger than some crooked lawyer talking smack, huh?
Fact.
Got you. All right, let's move on. Up next we have, and I saw this a couple of days ago. Did you all see the 2019 Basketball Hall of Fame induction or inductees, the list of inductees?
Sure did.
You did? Brother Rich, what about you?
Ditto.
Okay. Well, let's go through the list right quick. On the North American Committee, I don't know why they break it up like this, but Bill Fitch, Bobby Jones, Sidney Moncrief, Jack Sikma, Paul Westphal, and for whatever reason, there's a Tennessee A&I. I think that's a historically black college, if I'm not mistaken. The Tennessee A&I teams of 57 and 59 and I'll read briefly here. With Hall of Fame coach John McClendon at the helm, the Tennessee A&I teams of 57, 58, and 59 were the first to win back-to-back-to-back championships in any college division. That's interesting. Known for their fast breaking and extreme discipline, oh boy, we really don't hear that word in basketball, sports in general nowadays. They dominated their opponents with high scoring and smothering defense. Go figure. Led on the court by John Rabbit Barnhill and Dick Barnett, the team also broke social barriers as they traveled to national tournaments and challenged segregation. Tennessee A&I has since been renamed Tennessee State. Okay, got you. And on the women's committee, Teresa Weatherspoon and the contributor direct election committee. I'm not going to go into all that. Well, Al Addles is on there. But, okay, so let's focus on the names I just mentioned, who the NBA guys who got in, right? Now, I'm going to list a few of the players because I wanted to go back and see who were, like, what do they call it? The guys who were, help me out here. What do they call it? Were the guys who were, there's a list of guys who were.
Nub?
Yeah, no. Well, I know that word. Potential folks that could have got in. Okay, the list of people who should have got in. So bear with me here, because apparently my computer doesn't want to act right. So bear with me here. I'll go to basketballreference.com right quick and take a look at the list of, let's see, the list of candidates. Yes, the list of candidates here, 2019 basketball.
Yeah, Ben Wallace, Chris Webber.
Yeah. Oh, you got it. Hold on, let me get it here. Basketball. Sorry about that. Bear with me. Let's see what we got here. Here we go. I don't know why. Every time I pull it up, it disappears. Okay. They're listing it as 2020, but we're going to roll with it because I think that this is the same list here. There were 215 players on the list. Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Kobe Bryant, Shawn Marion, Chauncey Billups, Buck Williams, Horace Grant, Terry Porter, Larry Nance, Elton Brand, Detlef Schrempf, Jeff Hornacek, Otis Thorpe, Chris Bosh, Bill Laimbeer, Sam Perkins, Rasheed Wallace, Andre Miller, Eddie Jones, A.C. Green. So right there, and there's more. We're going to go through more now. Double J, who would you have? The list of names I just mentioned, because those are only 20 now. Who would you have subbed out, or who was snubbed out? Go.
Well, the first name that comes to mind, I really did just list my two being Ben Wallace and Chris Webber. You can make a case for Webber via the, just for the, again, without having a ring necessarily, just the level of play that he was at and the amount of accolades he had individually, just stemming from, both college as well as his professional career. Ben Wallace, in that 2004 Pistons team, for not really being an offensive, prevalent player, to do what he did on the defensive side, other than a name like a Dennis Rodman, you just, you really appreciate that type of caliber of athlete. And it speaks to how darn good he really was, because of the fact that he was not great on the offensive side of the ball at all. And so those two instantly come to mind. You could potentially make a case for, a long shot like a Tony Kukoc. Again, when you start thinking about the foreign aspects of it. But, those first three immediately, and it's the way it's lining up for next year, they might as well have that thing in the city of Detroit when you hear names like Laimbeer and Billups, and in that way, and dare I say even potentially a Jalen Rose in there as well.
All right, Brother Rich, before you weigh in, let me, of course, again mention the call-in number. The area code is 267-267-0026. If you're out there up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shot, we are now discussing the 2019 Basketball Hall of Fame inductees who was basically snubbed. Okay, go, Brother Rich. Who, out of the list of people who did get in or are going to be inducted versus the list of guys I just mentioned, the first 20 who didn't get in, who got snubbed, in your opinion, if anybody?
Well, I think Ben Wallace should have definitely got it. I think he definitely should have got it. Absolutely. But again, what Double J was saying, I think that's, and here we go again. This is one of the issues of marketing, the marketing campaign. He was just a hard-working Detroit-type player. He went to work every day with his quote-unquote proverbial lunch pail. He performed, he rebounded, he played defense. He was never the most gifted scorer, but he performed admirably in the way he was asked to perform. Nevertheless, it wasn't in New York and it wasn't in Boston, it wasn't for the Lakers, it wasn't for the Bulls. So because of the type of team and the kind of stars that they quote-unquote had on that team, which was no stars in truth, you find this kind of confusion in terms of when it's time to vote for him in this regard.
Yeah, and I'm going to mention two more names here. Jack Sikma and Vlade Divac, of course, are getting in. I don't know how I missed that one, but I'm good. We got them in. So, again, let's go back to this list now. Just try to stay with me because I'm going to list maybe not all of the players, but just those names. Because, my gosh, if you look at the list of guys who could have gotten in, who could have been selected, it's up there. And, of course, we mentioned Chris Webber and Ben Wallace, but you also have, bear with me, Kevin Johnson, Amari Stoudemire, Mark Jackson, Terry Cummings, Rashard Lewis, Hersey Hawkins, Charles Oakley, Sean Kemp, Glenn Rice, Anthony Mason, Antoine Jameson is on here too, but I don't know about that. You got Sam Cassell, Dale Davis, Derek Harper, Rod Strickland, Michael Finley, and one that I that's really jumped off the page at me, Tim Hardaway, Dale Ellis, Steve Smith, Peja Stojakovic. I don't know about Marcus Camby or Carlos Boozer because they're on here. Bob Dandridge, Marcus Johnson, Dan Marley, Cedric Maxwell, Stephon Marbury. Maybe not Lamar Odom because he's on here too. Let's see. Rolando Blackman, Andre Kirilenko. I see a couple of more names. I don't know about Mike Bibby or Mookie Blaylock. Ricky Pierce, I believe, is in. Danny Ainge, I don't know about that. Sharif Abdurrahim. Huh? What about him? Double J, Sharif Abdurrahim. You remember him?
Of course.
Yeah.
He was somebody that I personally, it's interesting that you asked me because I was not too high on him where I had to go look again and check his stats. But again, he was part of that Grizzlies franchise, in their early stages there. And but was he Hall of Fame caliber?
Yes.
In comparison to the list, with that list that you just gave me there, he would be more in the bottom third to me. Because
now,
there's
you could take
there's
Sharif
some guys
Abdurrahim and put him in place of Jack Sikma. No disrespect to Sikma.
I think that's where part of this is really coming from is that, sure there were, for this year specifically, I really believe that at this point the committee almost felt that, look, if these guys don't get in now, if they, with that absolute behemoth of a list,
yes,
from
so
the last 20 years, those guys were never going to get back in.
Yeah.
And, I don't want to say they gifted it to him because, ultimately those guys did earn it.
But you just did, though. You said gifted it, but go ahead. Yeah, I got you.
In many respects, I'm not going to take away all the accolades that, that they earned.
And that's fair.
But moving forward, there's going to be some guys that are going to get left out. I know I said a moment ago a name like a Tony Kukoc who was, just an all-around, somewhat of an average player, but it had some decent stats, obviously has a number of championship rings, but it depends really what this committee is looking for. Because now, you put a Tony Kukoc, who's more deserving, Tony Kukoc or Chris Webber?
Chris
And
Webber.
if you look at championship rings, one's going to be waving. It's a number of them.
Yeah.
The other, on the other hand, would eat them alive in terms of the statistics.
Yeah. So now you're talking basically the criteria used, to determine who gets in, so to speak. So, what are we basing it on? It always goes back to that. What are we basing it on? Brother Rich, what about you? Weigh in so far on the names I've read so far. Because as I'm looking at this list here, it's not even necessary to go through all the 200 because, like I said, I don't even see some guys as being worthy, even over Jack Sikma. But I will mention the names.
I wouldn't put Sigma in the league in the Hall of Fame, but likewise, I didn't think they would put Sharif Abdul-Rahim in the league in the Hall of Fame. I don't see that. I definitely don't. But I understand why Jack Sikma is in the league in the Hall of Fame. I understand that, but I don't think that that is automatic. That I didn't see that them putting Sharif Abdul-Rahim. I didn't see that.
Yeah. Here are a few other names: Doc Rivers, Gus Williams, Mark Aguirre, World B. Free, Reggie Theus, and one of my boys. I know he's probably not eligible, but I think I'm not eligible. But at some point he got to get in. One of my boys, Zydrunas Ilgauskas. Here's a name for you, Brother Rich. Robert Horry. Now let's stop right there for a minute, Brother Rich. You think Robert Horry should have got in? If not on this trip, maybe the next trip. You think he'll get in?
He's definitely gonna get in. He's one of the greatest clutch shooters that we've ever seen in the history of the league, and the things that he's done that have directly contributed to more than one championship. The amount of rings he has on his fingers are a testament to the fact that he's going to get in. But he's definitely not first ballot. Definitely not first ballot. But he's definitely
Can I throw it
at some point?
Yeah, I was coming to you, Double J. Yeah, go ahead.
Sidebar: who would you prefer to take the final shot, Ray Allen or Robert Horry?
You asking me?
Both of you guys, because I'm personally I can't make that choice.
Okay, that's a good one. I'm glad you threw that nugget out there. And that's people. Let me explain to you. That nugget that he just threw out there is not from Denver, Brother Rich. I'm gonna let you go first on that one because I got to take a sip of water.
I have to agree with that. Here's the thing, though. Because of what he's done, I would take Robert Horry.
Okay, now it's on me, right? Okay,
It sure is.
I will take the position of early in the 80s, Oliver North, when he was being questioned about the Iran-Contra affair. I plead the fifth. And actually, after you dropping that nugget on me, I think I'm going to go drink a fifth. No, I'm just kidding. I don't touch the stuff. But I'm just saying I refuse to answer that question on the grounds that it might incriminate me, everything I've done, everything we've done, and the folks that are listening, and the show just in general. I refuse to answer that question because, to be honest with you, both of them cats, that's a conundrum type pick. You was wrong for that, Double J. I just want to let you know that you was wrong for trying to put me on the spot like that, knowing that I don't have my reading glasses on. I can't see nothing for the forest through the trees. I mean, look, man, how do you pick between them two? How do you do that? Exactly. You don't ask me nothing like that, man. Okay, let's keep going here. We have a couple of other names on the list. That Robert Horry one was a good one, too, I tell you what. Ron Harper. Double J, you think Ron Harper gets in ever? Excuse me.
Well, again, it comes back to this criteria because, we're talking about utility guys that have championship rings. And going head-to-head against perennial all-stars for almost the entirety of their careers, no different than the Paul Pierce and D. Wade, argument, albeit as brief as that was. This committee is going to be, they're going to make a lot of people upset over these next few years because if you look at who is about to be eligible, going it from not just the Sean Marions or the Andre Karolengos to the Kobe Bryant and the Kevin Garnett's and the Tim Duncans to, and again, in a few years from now, a Luis Scola or a Darren Williams. At this point, you would say, well, who did I want on my team at that, during, you have to take yourself back to when they played. And then again, ultimately, it comes down to what are we basing? What is the definition now of a Hall of Fame athlete when it comes to the NBA? What matters the most?
Okay, you can say it. You
But
started
I
to
think we
say,
got that
what are we
answer, Double
basing
J.
it on? What are we basing it on? You can.
But
you
I
can
think
say
we
it.
got that answer. I think we got that answer.
Well,
Didn't we
then-
get that answer now? Because
wait.
we know now that Hall of Fame appear to be popularity contests. That's why Ron Harper will have a difficult time, because who's going to advocate for Ron Harper?
Me.
Yes, but again, you don't have a vote. So the people who
Hey,
are,
brother,
who-
hold it. Hold on. Brother Rich, why you had to do me like that? But you don't have a vote.
Well,
I mean, you
you
had to
know,
put no
yeah,
emphasis.
yeah, well,
emphasis, you know what I'm
I should
saying?
say we don't. I should say we don't have a vote.
No,
I
it's
should say
all
we
good. I
don't have
got
a
you.
vote.
I'm just
We don't have a
pulling you
vote.
Yeah.
We don't have a vote. This is why the people that this is why Don Wallace is not there, because nobody's waving pom poms advocating for Ben Wallace until afterwards, and people say, wait a minute, you didn't induct Ben Wallace, why not? And then we look around again. We saw this with the NFL recently with the young man. How do you not have Terrell Owens in your Hall of Fame? And you say you're serious about what is the
What
criteria?
you're basing
there?
it on.
Popularity contest.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
These
that's a good one.
are popularity contests, no doubt about it.
And so are most of the NBA the sports awards too, especially NBA, MVP, and all of that. But anyway, that's another story for
All
another
of them.
day. Yeah,
They need to start telling the fans to really have if it's truly going to be a popularity contest, then they need to allow, similarly to what they do for the All-Star game, to take place with the Hall of Fame. Even if it counts only as a singular vote, they need to allow that to happen, because otherwise you're absolutely right that, these quality players are there. There's no doubt that they were great in their own, individual respects, but they're not going to appear to be great enough compared to some of these other, Mount Rushmore-esque players.
Yeah, if you're out there out and about and you want to give us a shout, you out there got your ears on. The number to call is area code 267-687-0026. But you know what, Double J, I don't know if you really do that. If you put that kind of weight or put that kind of responsibility in the hands of the fans, because you got fans out there. Remember now, I don't know how long ago it was, but not still recent enough that I can remember at least this. When they came to the All-Star game, NBA All-Star game, you had fans who voted Yao Ming in, and he had already been done playing. I don't know, with the Hall of Fame and all of that goes into Hall of Fame, that's more, more concrete now. You know what I mean? That's a lifelong, forever remembered, the All-Star games are like singular moments, so to speak, but the Hall of Fame is like forever, if I'm saying that right. So I don't know if I would I wouldn't mind putting the car keys to my Taurus in the hands of my 18-year-old son, but I'm not putting the car keys to my 911 Porsche in the keys of I'm not putting it in the hands of my 18-year-old son. I'm not doing it. That might not have been a great example, but I hope you all get the gist or the idea of where I was going with that. No, I don't know. That seems a little bit too, I don't know about that. Okay, let's keep going here, because we got a few more players whose names I want to get to. Brother Rich, this is for you. This is one of your favorite players of all time who was a candidate for the Basketball Hall of Fame, but did not get in, or I didn't see anything about he got in. Christian Laettner. Let that marinate.
Exactly.
Let that marinate.
But again,
Let that marinate.
why should Christian Laettner is not an NBA Hall of Famer? There's nothing about his career that indicates Hall of Fame. Nothing.
Well,
now, if we're talking about college basketball.
Hold on. Hold your thought. I disagree to a certain extent. Christian Laettner is Hall of Fame if for no other reason. When he was the guy who was left sitting on the bench in the first Dream Team era, that was a Hall of Fame moment.
Correct.
Johnson
Well, if you're going to inaugurate him if you're going to induct him into the Hall of Fame for that, then that's fine. But as far as basketball people, come on, man, his career was over at Duke. Let's be honest. He definitely did do that.
I'm just saying he was integral. He was an integral piece in that 30 for 30 about the Dream Team when Magic said, the college guy, when he was picking sides at the practice after the college dudes came in and whooped on the Dream Team the first time, and Chuck Daly was like, see, I told y'all. He was like, oh, man, when they was picking sides, you can have a college guy. That was a historical moment. That was a Hall of Fame moment. And on that alone, Christian Laettner will get in. Should I give a 2 hoots and a holler? Maybe. Let's get one of these.
How do we mute the host, huh, Brother Rich?
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree
Really?
with you, Double J.
You want to mute the host? Yeah, got you. Can't do it. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, here's another name for you, Brother Rich. Derek Coleman.
Another player that's not going to get in.
Uh-huh.
Get in for what? What did he do?
Wow.
I mean, he's not going to get in because, again, if we're talking about basketball players, Hall of Fame level basketball players, we have to have some measure of quote unquote success should accompany that.
Okay, so then,
But
Double J.
don't you feel that? And this is where I'm going to say this is why this year's was so critical, because what it did is it blew the doors wide open on this criteria that we're referring to. Because if you look at the inductees for this year, and you look at a Derek Coleman, you look at a Mookie Blaylock, and some of the others, and Ron Harper as an example, you would say, well, those guys are either equal or greater to the individuals that were selected for this season.
Yeah.
And at that point, it becomes a catch-22, because now, and this is again why I'm going to reference it again, if those guys had not gotten in this particular year, they were never going to get in.
Well, all right.
The whole dynamic is going to change from starting with next year's Hall of Fame class. And it is going to get the measuring stick is going, you're going from the kiddie pool to the deep end very, very quickly without warning, because of the amount of accolades that these athletes accrued over the length of their careers.
All right, well, Double J, here's a guy for you, one of your favorite players, I'm sure. Got to be. Tree Rollins. I'm just kidding. He's on the candidate list, but is he not your what? What? I hear you grumbling back there. What's going on? Speak up. Tell me. Tree Rollins not your favorite guy? Huh? I saw the poster that you put up on Facebook of Tree Rollins when he bit for the pump fake against the Rockets. Don't go for the pump fake, Tree. And he went for it anyway. See? Go ahead, weigh in. Tree Rollins? No? Maybe? How come? Why not?
No, and you know what? Here's where we're going to get into dangerous territory as well. You look at a Penny Hardaway. You look at a Grant Hill.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, are they going to get in?
Oh, man, definitely. And they'll get in sooner rather than later. You can't not put them in. This ain't the NFL where, it's always going to be some sort of, like boxing almost. What moment? You know what I mean? No, they'll Grant, come on now. They'll definitely get in. Brother Rich, this one is for you.
But if you were looking at it, this is where you talk about the popularity aspects of it. Because other than popularity, from those two same names, in comparison to a Ron Harper or a Horace Grant, you might completely disagree. You might say, well, no, I would prefer that Harper gets in because of the amount of championships he's won in comparison to Grant Hill and Penny Hardaway with their what ifs, even a Brandon Roy.
Oh, Brandon Roy was nice. His knees messed him up. But you know what, though? But to Brother Richard's point, this contributor. How am I saying it? Help me out with this. What is going on? I can't talk today. The contributions made, so to speak. When it comes to a guy like Ron Harper, I don't think it's just rings, though, because he had an impact with the Bulls. He had an impact when he was with the Cavs, mind you. Jordan himself said, in addition to Dumars, Ron Harper was one of the most difficult guys for him to play against. He said Harp made me I had to play, and I seen games when the Cavs and Bulls were doing battle early on in them playoff series. When Ron Harper was with the Cavs, man, he gave Jordan the business. So, when Harper was with them Bulls teams, he made a significant contribution to why they were winning, as opposed to a guy like, on the flip side, a guy like Danny Ferry. He got a ring too, but what did he do? So, it's not that you got chips, so to speak. when I look, okay, he got a chip. Now let me look and see, what role did he play in that chip being won, so to speak. So I still say Ron Harper at some point sooner rather than later gets in. But I got a couple of more names I'm going to throw out here at you all. Double J.
Well, so let me throw this one in here briefly. Speaking of your Cavs, right?
Oh boy,
Mark Price.
Oh my, you know what? What's already understood need not be explained, and I'll tell you why. There's a show that comes on called Open Court, where former players have a sort of a round table. Well, not round table because they're all sitting in luxury recliner-type chairs and couches. They all sat around, and I forget who was on this particular episode, all of them. I think it was Dennis Scott, Isaiah Thomas, Steve Kerr, Steve Smith, Reggie Miller. Ernie Johnson was hosting it, I believe, and there was a couple of other players. Might have been Shaq, too. But they were having that, and Kenny Smith, and they were having a discussion about point guards who had an impact, on the league at during that time when they were revisiting his history or whatever you want to call it. And Steve Kerr said without hesitation, it might have been Isaiah Thomas too, said one guy, when we talk about point guards, and one guy that don't get, enough love, he said Mark Price emphatically. And I can attest to that. Mark Price, even at Georgia Tech with John Sally, was he big? No, none of that. But he had the heart of a lion. And, man, and the dude could play basketball. And matter of fact, he's still in the top 5 in terms of free throw percentage. Okay? Now, here's one for you, Brother Rich, and Double J, since we going back. Who would you take, Mark Price or John Stockton? Since you like throwing out numbers.
Mark Price.
Yeah, I already know.
Mark
brother.
Price.
Yeah, I got you. Double J.
I'm going to disagree.
Oh, you like throwing out nuggets, but can't nobody throw no rocks back at you or nuggets back at you, huh? Okay, I got you. You disagree. Why?
No, I'm going to disagree, and
Okay.
I'm going to go with Stockton. And again, only because of the fact of the number of finals that he appeared in, and additionally, the assist record.
Okay, so hold on. Let me use this as an analogy. I don't disagree with you. Hold on one second here, y'all. We got somebody want to weigh in on the action. Give me a second here. Hello, caller. What's going on? We appreciate you for calling the Shop Report. State your name and tell us where you're calling from.
This is Johnny out of New York.
Johnny out of New York?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Johnny, what you want to say? Weigh in on it. You know where we at right now? We're discussing the 2019 Basketball Hall of Fame induction. Who got in, who's on the list, and inductees, and who got snubbed. Go ahead, have your say.
Well, who's on the list this year? Because, one thing about the NBA, or that list, it's hard to say who's gonna go in and who's not.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason for that. How they get in, So let's be honest. Who do you think should be in?
Well, that's why we're discussing it, because it's hard to really say or to pinpoint. But let me ask you this question, Mr. I've got another Mr. NYC on the line here. Would you put Ben Wallace in over Jack Sigma? Yeah,
Wow.
see? That's a tough call, isn't it?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I don't think Ben Wallace deserves to be in.
What? Okay, now tell us why. This is what we do on this show. We don't just make statements. We got to explain. Why do we feel that way?
For the simple fact that, what did he do? He wasn't a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He wasn't you put him in that category. That's his position.
Yeah. Well, that's true. But
you put him as a Charles Barkley? Do you put him as a Scottie Pippen? No way.
No.
I don't even think he's top 100 player ever.
Oh, see, now you're opening up a can of worms for a discussion for another day, Mr.
Yeah,
Johnny
that's a
from
very
New York.
good point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's something we had to, Double J, Brother Rich, that's something we had to put together a show on. But I'll say this, Ben Wallace garners consideration based on this. He played a position that if you at that time were to put all of the centers who played the position, because it was still, I don't want to say a big man, a five, we call it the five spot driven league back then. But, you know, the center in basketball back then during that time was like what the heavyweight division was to boxing. You know, it was still the most recognizable, okay, carried a lot of weight. So even though it was kind of, you know, dying down a little bit. So Ben Wallace played that position so much effectively to an extent, was so much so that even though he did not put up the numbers offensively or whatever the case may be, like the Kareems and the Shaqs and so on and so forth, but he held his own against it. For a guy who didn't do what they did, for him to even be on that same level with them or to have that same impact that they did, not doing what they were able to do, to me is what garners, you know, or lends itself to him being considered for, is what I would say. But you do bring up a good point, though. You do bring up a good point. We got to keep the show rolling. John, make sure, hey, man.
Hey, real quick.
Go ahead.
I got my friend here. He just gave me some background of Sigma.
Okay.
He said he was good, but, I mean, go ahead.
Well, Jack Sigma was in the league before Ben Wallace.
Yeah,
so
we know
they're
that.
doing stuff based on seniority basis. I can see why they want to put him in first. But talent-wise, I'd say Ben Wallace was more talented.
Got you. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff, man. Call in and again, man. Keep an eye on us. We're on the Shop Report, Spreaker.com. You can follow us on Facebook, The Shop Report, on Twitter, Google, iTunes, and actually we're now on Spotify, man. We appreciate y'all for calling in, man. Have a good one.
No problem. All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right, Double J. What do you all say to that, huh? Brother Rich, Double J?
Thank you for calling Call-In Studios host and call. Enter your 6-digit PIN number. Welcome, host. You are now in the host room and can manage your callers from the Call-In Studio web interface. Show recording is on dual channel.
Fellas, you still with me?
You got it.
Yeah, man. So for whatever reason, we went out for a second right there. But we are back. Sorry about that, people. We're going live. We want to thank the callers from New York, John and his guy. They brought up an interesting point. You think?
I mean, I found it a little bit, I don't want to say fascinating, but, it speaks to exactly to the points that we're making about not only just the criteria, but just the Pandora's box of headaches that one can accrue trying to sort this list out. Partially it's there's not a lot of consistency with who they're picking and why they're picking them, but the fact of the matter is the folks that are being selected are worthy in their own individual respects. But, to hear the point that say, are you, when looking at Ben Wallace as the example, my first thought was absolutely he's a Hall of Famer. But then, to say, well, look at, when you break it down by position, who else is in there? And to say that they fit, that caliber of player, for that position, it starts making you think otherwise.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, man. like I said, basically to the callers from New York, the other New York NYCs, it's really a never-ending conversation. You know what I mean? I mean, how do you, like you said, how do you determine who does what and who gets in based off what and why and so on and so forth? Because I got a couple of other names for you, Double J, that I want to throw out here. Actually, I'm gonna give you three, and you can mull over them for a little bit if you want to. Tayshaun Prince, Richard Hamilton, Baron Davis.
I'm going to go no on Tayshaun. I'm going to say yes to both Baron Davis as well as Richard Hamilton. Again, with Hamilton specifically, of course, he had that alter ego or that persona when he put the mask on. Additionally, the amount of that guy really shaped the today BA, as you would call it, with the movement off ball.
And you're talking about Rip Hamilton.
Correct. Other than him, the only other person around that era that you used to see moving off the ball that frequently might have been Reggie Miller.
Yeah. Well, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Reggie Miller. Well, and you can say about DeRozan in the Today BA that when it comes to the mid-range game, Rip Hamilton's mid-range game, I hadn't really seen a guy with mid-range game like that until DeMar DeRozan. What do you say to that?
No, I'm going to absolutely agree with you on that. But again, we're talking about what came first here between, we're almost at the chicken and egg, but, the off-ball movement and, his curl around the screen, which freed him up for that mid-range shot, was, at the time, it was not only unstoppable, but, it was revolutionary to some extent. And you see it, like you stated with DeRozan, again, it's, sure, he can create his own shot, and, I think he's far more athletic overall. But the amount, I would love to see the statistic of how many steps Hamilton took and how many maybe miles he ran per game, because I think it was a landslide between him and maybe he would come second to only his the man that was responsible for guarding him.
Well, that's possible. Yeah, and that's interesting. You would say the amount of steps. I mean, what you saying? He should have had a Fitbit on. he travels 5,000 miles during just one game, so to speak.
It really seemed like that, and I recall watching some kind of episode of a sports show, maybe I would say about 15 years ago now, where they really broke down. He's of course many athletes monitor their diet, but in his case specifically, it was to fit what the workload that he was responsible for. So again, when you start hearing those types of things, you got to remember we're so accustomed to that today, but back then it wasn't as common to see that. Sure, they were all athletic and in great shape, but he took it to such a different level that I think, again, that's, to me, that's what makes you a Hall of Famer, when what you did, whether that be a style of play or ultimately what made you great, is still used today.
Interesting.
When you look at like a hook shot, like Kareem, that you can see, being, whether that's Joel Embiid, from Hakeem Olajuwon, or all the way to Ben Simmons, that's revolutionary. Now you're saying, why Steph Curry will be, a first ballot Hall of Famer, will be for his range, his release, and it influenced the rest of the game, and not just at the professional level, but all the way down to, to the elementary ranks. You got kids shooting 3-pointers now. That is what sets yourself apart from anybody else. To me, that's what makes you a Hall of Famer, is when, something specific like that can be. That's Richard Hamilton. That is a direct result of Richard Hamilton. No different than that's a direct result of Steph Curry or Hakeem Olajuwon. But again, there's one consistency, and I'm fast forwarding here. But yes, this is why Richard Hamilton will be a Hall of Famer.
Give me your thoughts on Derek Fisher right quick. We seem to have, for whatever reason, excuse the technical difficulties, we seem to have lost Brother Richard. We'll see if we can get him back on the line. But in the meantime, give me your thoughts on Derek Fisher.
Well, Derek Fisher, again, is one of those unique players. Was he a great player? Sure. I always felt he was arguably the weakest player on that Lakers team. But the guy always got the job done. He could somewhat lock you down defensively. So he was an all-around, good player. He was solid. There was really no weaknesses, but that just speaks to the caliber of the team that he was on at the time. And, of course, with that being said, he does have the amount of championships necessary, to possibly carry him in.
Yeah.
But
he hits.
If you were to say Derek Fisher against Baron Davis, of course, statistically, it would lean towards Baron Davis. But then we start talking rings again.
All right, I'm back in.
Yeah. I don't know.
Am I back in?
Yeah. You here, bro? Yep, I got you, Brother Rich. Brother Rich has rejoined us for whatever reason. When we took the callers from the other callers from New York, for whatever reason we got disconnected. But I'm glad we are all back here, and we of course are continuing our discussion on the 2019 Basketball Hall of Fame inductees, inductions, and so on and so forth. And we were discussing. I'd asked Double J, Brother Rich, about Derek Fisher, and him getting in or whatnot. And Rip Hamilton and Tayshaun Prince, do they garner consideration, maybe next year as well? Or does this whole thing just get more and more congested as we go along?
I think Rip gets in for sure. I think he gets in. I don't know whether Tayshaun Prince gets in or not, but I think Rip definitely gets in. I think that when you're talking about Tayshaun, again, these are popularity contests. They've been reduced to that. So Rip gets in because he was the de facto leader of that team, he was one of the central figures and players in that team. So I can see him getting in because, again, they won and they upended and upset the Lakers, as we all remember during that time.
Yeah. And
they had a team that was considered one of the better teams in the concept of team, what we were looking for teams. They had one of the better ones in the history of and they finished it off by winning the title. We know that.
Yeah, and you just said something that made me think of something, actually an interesting point, to tell you the truth. Does the fact that the Pistons beat the Lakers, in other words, it was the Lakers, the vaunted Lakers, does that weigh in at all if you're a voter on the committee? Who does against?
Absolutely. That was one of the greatest upsets in the NBA final. Remember, that was the team that was supposed to go on and have a considerable amount of championships, not just one. Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And I've said that in other cases where, and let me mention again, if you're out there listening or you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout, we are continuing our discussion on the 2019 Basketball Hall of Fame induction, the inductees, and who got snubbed. And we will get to, and I didn't think we would be able to, but we will get to our 2019 NBA playoff preview as well. So we'll wrap things up here in a minute about the induction. At the end of the day, I had mentioned Baron Davis as well. And I want to ask you both, what constitutes Baron probably getting in? Or not?
Yeah.
Double J.
If you're asking me, and again, he doesn't get in.
Oh, really? Really? Why so?
I'll stick with my popularity contest theory that this is not about basketball players and what they contributed on an individual level to a team or to the development of their team or players or how consistent they were. This is about splash and dash. This is about who'd you play for and how many rings you won and what city you played in and these kinds of things. This is why there's even a conversation talking about whether or not Mark Price gets in. That's why we're having conversations like this, because this is not about pure basketball skill and talent. This is about how popular you were.
Got you. Okay, well, in that case, if we're going to stay on the popularity tip, what about Hito Turkoglu? My son used to say Hito Turkey-Loo, but go ahead, Hito Turkoglu. Yeah, nobody wants that one, huh? Hot potato? Got you.
Thank you. Again, another one. Gets in on what? What does he get in on?
I don't want to touch that.
Other than the international aspect, that's the only
other than
thing
that,
I think. Yeah, that may be the end all. Why he ultimately gets in. It would be that point. No different than Karolinko.
Okay, so in essence, and we'll wrap it up here. In essence, you're telling me both of you all essentially are saying that a guy like Tony Kukoc gets into the Hall of Fame before a guy like, I don't know, Kenny Anderson? Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
Wow, that is interesting. Or maybe even a Corey Maggette? Or maybe even Derek Fisher. You telling me Kukoc gets in before Derek Fisher?
Absolutely.
Oh, man, I don't know about
that. Tuna Kukoc rode. He can ride the Jordan coattail. He can ride the Bulls dynasty coattail into the Hall of Fame. Derek Fisher, and then Derek Fisher has made some terrible blunders in terms of his NBA life. So who voted the writers? He's alienated a lot of people, writers, players, former players, executives. So I think there's a minute before somebody like him gets in.
I'm going to double down on that. And he, no different than Bill Laimbeer, there's a reason why both of them began their coaching careers in the WNBA, because they needed some time, I think, for like your brother Rich's point, the league all the way down to the writers to kind of forgive and forget. And then ultimately he'll get his shot here, in the future.
Yeah, well, in that instance, we already know why Tim Hardaway ain't getting in. Okay, let's move on. And despite the technical hiccup and me losing everybody there momentarily, I want to say, man, that was a great, I believe, a great segment, the way we, broke that down, dissected it and all of that. So we'll see. We'll keep our eyes on this 2019 Basketball Hall of Fame induction. For whatever reason, can't talk. Every time we get on here, I can't talk. Maybe it's because my glasses are crooked. All right, so let's move on for our last entree of the day. We don't do appetizers, dessert. We do all entrees because we hungry like that, right? Yeah. Our 2019 NBA playoff preview. But before we get into it, let me again say, if you're up and around, you're out and about, and you want to give us a shout for this last meal of the day, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Again, area code 267-687-0026. Okay, our NBA playoff preview. Now, I didn't think that we would have time to get one in, even though we were going live today. We used to, pre-recording this thing here. So if you're out there listening, again, bear with us because we're still tightening up, finding out which lug nuts need to be tightened and which ones need to be loosened. But we'll start in the West. And, of course, right now it's only what? Double J, help me out. I think it's what, 1 game, 2 games left in the season? For some teams, 1 game.
Yeah,
for some teams.
Yep, you got it.
Okay, so I believe at season's end, after these 1 or 2 games are done, that the playoff positioning or matchups as they're set, or when I first looked this up, I think they'll stay the same. So we'll start in the West, of course, and we'll go with the 1-8 matchup, the Golden State Warriors and the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, me personally, we already know the Warriors are one of the rare squads who, despite the talent, I don't want to say despite the talent, while having enormous talent, is that better? Still, their style of play is indicative of a team that don't have a bunch of stars. So they got a bunch of stars, but they play like when they're when they're doing their thing, they play like they don't have a bunch of stars, and that's a rare combination. So they fit the bill of what I've said before about George Karl and his whole idea of this whole concept of team nowadays when it comes to the NBA. You know, like build a team and let a star emerge. You know what I mean? So they have the best of both worlds, so to speak. And they're going up against the Clippers. Brother Rich, do you give the Clippers an outside shot, no shot, or they shouldn't shoot it, or like Dave Chappelle said about Prince, shoot the J? They have no
shot at all.
Really?
They have no shot at all.
You just had me go through all of that, and you just gonna kill it right
they have
there?
no shot.
Oh wow, really?
They have no
J,
shot.
What about you?
They'll probably get swept.
Oh man, you know what? Let me turn the microphone down. So disrespectful to the Clippers and Doc Rivers. But they'll probably get swept. Okay, I got you. Yeah. I don't think so. I think the series will go 6 games at least. I think the Clippers get a couple. You can know they got Sweet Lou over there. You know, I'm gonna have to holler at Sweet Lou, bro, Rich, and tell him what you just said. You know, that's my boy, Sweet Lou.
He ain't sweet enough.
He ain't going out like that, even against the vaunted Goliath Warriors. Double J, what you say you?
Well, I'm going to disagree with you because I don't believe they're going to remain in the 8th spot.
Okay.
And,
all right.
But using, just for that particular matchup, I'm going to agree with Brother Rich here that it would, yes, they're going to get swept. In the playoffs, it is a different intensity level.
Oh,
and
no
that
question.
team, unfortunately, they do not match up well, nor does the majority of the league with Golden State.
Well, I can't argue with that. Yeah, the matchup thing, because that's you know me, Brother Rich. Again, this goes back to one of our many conversations about the game of basketball in general, and we talked about the NBA and what is it that you need to be doing by the time you get to the playoff, and what the playoffs, regardless of how sexy all that other stuff was looking for them 82 games, the playoff says, okay, when you come through this door, here are the things, here are the translatables that you need to have in order to survive and advance, so to speak. And matchups are one of those things that they're tried and true, and they tell the truth about you and how you do what you do when you do get to the playoffs. So if you're not playing your regular season, if you're an NBA team, in increments like you would a 7-game series throughout a regular season, then you'll get got real quick and towed on in the playoffs very early. So I'm with you about the Clippers in that regard. But Double J, let me ask you this then. So let's say it's not the Clippers that are getting in at the A seed. Who's getting in, and then what say you about them going up against the Warriors?
Oh, absolutely. So the way that it would shake out for me is that it would pin either the San Antonio Spurs or the Utah Jazz against the Warriors.
Isn't that odd that we're saying that the Spurs will be an 8th seed?
It is. It
That's
is.
odd.
Now, I do feel that that series would actually go closer to 6, maybe all 7, just simply because of, again, the inside presence and the coaching matchup. I truly believe that Pop would have a thing or two up his sleeve and would be able to use that weakness that of course the Warriors have with their size against them.
Okay, so then potentially in the 4-5 matchup, you got the Portland Trail Blazers, and of course, as it stands, or right now, the Utah Jazz. Double J, who would win that matchup?
I'm going to go, this is really going to depend on the health of Nurkic, because I'm just not a big believer in Cantor being the starter there. I feel like he's great off of the bench, but not ideal to start, especially given the matchup that we're referring to.
Yeah,
but
I disagree though
Nurkic,
to a certain extent. But go ahead. I'll tell you why.
Healthy, they absolutely. I'm going with Portland.
Well, Nurkic had that injury. I don't see how he plays, because that injury was gruesome. Wasn't it Nurkic? Am I saying that right? Wasn't it Nurkic that had the
that was him. He's
Yeah,
done. He's done. He's already done. He's done for the
Nurkic.
year.
Yeah, he's done for the year, man. He messed his leg up bad, man. It was almost, and I sidebar right quick. Did you all see the story? What the young gymnast from Georgia who she did one of them vaults or faults or whatever they call that maneuver, where you kind of flip and then you land. She broke both her legs. Did you see that?
No, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, man.
Mhm.
That's yeah. And my youngest kid begged me for years about, I want to do gymnastics. And I was like, man, every time she asked me that, I just feel like going to drink a bottle or something, because I would cringe, man. Because that's a tough sport. That gymnastics it is. So I feel for that young lady. But yeah, Nurkic, excuse me. Yeah, he messed himself up bad, man. I'm talking about like Paul George like. I mean, I don't. And what was the guy from Louisville a few years back? Kevin Ware. I know Ware was his last name. I'm not sure what his first name was. Yeah, but I don't think it didn't come through the bone. But my goodness, it did everything but that. But here's why I say I disagree slightly, or ever so slightly, about the Cantner deal. With McCollum and Dame, you got a triangle by default, or a de facto triangle, so to speak. Not in the style and in that the triangle being a system, but that you got a three-headed monster, okay? CJ's floor game offensively it's spectacular, man. It's a thing of beauty. Dame, we already know he a big time dude. You get what I mean? He grounded. With Cantner, you don't get the same level of play that you did with Nurkic, because Nurkic was definitely a force. But you still get that inside balance. And with those two guys aforementioned who would know how to utilize him. So you do get a drop-off, sort of like in football. You get a wide receiver who, he get them sevens like a champ. Whether he go down and then the next guy comes up behind him, he might not be able to score them touchdowns like the first guy would. That's why that first guy was a starter. But he can still move the chains, okay? So in other words, instead of you getting a 90-yard pass play for a touchdown, you're getting, 15, 20-yard increments, so to speak. I think Cantner is serviceable for Portland, but I just see a different flavor. Now, truth be told, it's only the Warriors play at the level of defense in the West that's required in the NBA playoffs, okay? In a 7-game series. OKC, we're getting ready to get to them next, are more than capable, and they've shown definitely more than flashes, but the Warriors are more consistent when it comes to that end. And that's one thing about Portland that still raises a question mark with me. So, Brother Rich, who do you say, Portland or Utah, would win that matchup, if that is the matchup at season's end? Bro, Rich? Hello?
Hey, can you hear me? I was saying that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, got
Can you
you.
hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what's going
I
on.
was saying that because of the situation with the lineups and the injury bug that's plaguing Portland right now.
Yeah.
I just don't see them having enough to beat Utah. I don't see that. That comes down to that. I see Utah pulling that one. I see that to be one of those fairly, quote unquote, evenly matched series where it's some good basketball that can be played there. Good series, and then may the best man win, if you will. But I see in the end that Utah will pull that out.
Okay, and then Double J, to your point, I believe, when you talk about matchups, or when we talk about matchups, you're saying Gobert against Cantner. Gobert wins?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Again, you're talking about, Rudy's gotten back to, I would say, a level of play that, we haven't seen maybe, I would say maybe the last 2 or 3 seasons. But, other than physicality from Cantor, and everything else would be lopsided in favor of Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I really don't find any fault with that right there. Again, we have to see how it plays out, because the playoffs, NBA playoffs, or playoffs, any time you get in the playoffs, regardless of whatever level it is, it's a new season. It is a new season, so you got to bring your hard hat. You really got to bring your hard hat. Okay, let's move over. Not move over, but let's move down to the 3-6 matchup with, of course, the Houston Rockets at 3, as it stands again. This is potentially now, and the OKC Thunder at 6. I just want to say right quick about the Rockets and about the Thunder. This about the Rockets. James Harden is getting all the adulation this year about being in the MVP race and the whole nine and should he get an MVP. Hey, I get it. That's fine. But for me, it's what you do when it come time, when it's money time, okay? If James Harden has done this season, and we've seen him being capable of doing the past 3 or 4 seasons, if it does not translate this year in the playoffs, Brother Rich, that says what about him and the Rockets? Go.
Well, it won't translate, and I've told you that before. No team,
That's right.
I've always told you this, that no team led by James Harden can win a title. They're not, and it's not going to translate because now we're going to really see what this is about. We're going to really see and every time in the playoffs we see what this really is about. How are you going to win with you are shooting the greater percentage of your shot? You can either shoot your team in the game or shoot your team out of the game. And because so much of the offense is exactly, so much of the offense relies on him, in the playoffs, he's more than likely going to shoot his team out of more games than he'll shoot them into. Yeah, he'll have his streaks, but how is that going to compete against these people who are now, you about to play the Western Conference playoff? These are teams. I don't even think they could beat Oklahoma City with that, to be quite honest with you.
I'm with you on that. And once again, if you're out there, up and around or out and about and you want to give us a shout, that number to call is area code 267-687-0026. Once again, 267-687-0026. We are in the last portion of the show today. We are discussing the 2019 NBA playoff preview. Here's what I want to say about the OKC Thunder. They are built to win it all right now. Every time I watch them and I look at them, I'm like, man, where's the weak link? And I don't mean player or individually, or I'm talking about just overall. I'm stepping back like you do that brand new car you bring home. You're stepping back like, yeah, I'm looking to find some flaws, and I really don't see them except for, and it could be a big one, too many times in games, they have these moments, man, where the decision making, offensively in particular, is just questionable. We go all the way back to that show we did about winning basketball. Okay? We saw the national championship last night, right? UVA, and Texas Tech. Michael Duncan runs an AAU program here in Ohio, OBC. One of the best run AAU programs in the country because he's fundamentally based. But he brought up a good point, and I was on the same thing. Did you see the adjustment that Virginia made in the second half of last night's game as opposed to the first half? Did either one of you peep the adjustment? Brother Rich, yes or no?
I did not.
What about you, Double J, yes or no?
I believe so. And by adjustment, do you mean not doing the handoff and doing the drive and kick?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I keep expressing to people, again, in particular my sons and any other young guy who's playing the game, I get it. All that stuff you seeing, Brother Rich especially, when you talking about popularity, you know what I mean? That's what these kids are caught up on, popularity. But you got to have a purpose. You cannot get away and do in advance, and then when you lose, be mad. If you're not playing with a purpose, and the purpose is to understand it's the style of play. That's another thing in the playoffs. And I don't know what order you want to put it in, but style of play is crucial to advancing. Virginia, in the first half, was doing that dribble handoff. And you all know I cannot stand that style of play because it wastes too much time of a shot clock, time spent up and around and above the perimeter. You see all this open space down in around the paint, and instinctively nobody thinks to just cut to the basket. It's open. Anyway, I digress. So, and Texas Tech was right along, even though Virginia was up a few, Texas Tech was right there with them. And then in the second half, sort of like midway through the second half, maybe a little bit before the end or a little after the fact, I really wasn't looking at the clock, I was just looking at how they was doing it. They started doing the drive and kick. And what did that do, Double J? All them defenders who usually were at home on shooters, at least in range or in the same vicinity of, just started sucking defenders into the paint. And now what? Now you take the type of three I don't have no problem with. You dribble, drive, and kick out. Texas Tech didn't adjust to it. They didn't adjust to it. And Virginia went on ahead and won it. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, it's your style of play. What can you say? I was expecting Texas Tech to adjust to it, and they didn't, man, you know. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the Thunder, it's their style of play at times and moments. You know me. Signature games, signature moments, signature players, ... et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The Thunder, whether or not if they advance and how far they advance this year in the playoffs would be one of the things I look that will stand out to me. Their style of play throughout, from the beginning of the game throughout, all the way to the end. Every game that they're in, their style of play. That has to be a point of emphasis. But I'm going to just say it right now. I think OKC wins that series. Double J, have you say?
Well, I'm not going to disagree with you here. You know, I feel like this is the first year in quite some time that we can convincingly say that the bottom half of the seeds have the higher likelihood of advancing.
Yeah. I couldn't argue with that either.
And so, you know, when you look at, you know, for example, the Met, regardless of how it shakes out, in my opinion, I could easily make a case for San Antonio, Oklahoma City, and again, you know, this would be the least likely, but if Utah were to fall in allowing the Clippers to move up a few spots, they could also advance.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right, we're going to slide down to the last matchup as it stands, as I'm looking at it here, in the West. The number 2 Denver Nuggets at the number 7 San Antonio Spurs. That's why I said it a minute ago. I just can't believe the Spurs fall into an 8th seed. Well, we've seen it a couple of years ago. What was it, 2011? When they lost the last game of the season or something or another, and they ended up having to see the Clippers in the first round as opposed to playing at home in the first round or whatever the case may be. Well, they went from a number 2 seed to like a number 7 then or something or another. But, I mean, all the talk is surrounding the Nuggets in particular is that the Nuggets and the Warriors would meet each other in the Western Conference Final, and everything else basically outside of the Rockets getting a little bit more shine than everybody else is a formality. But I say this. The Nuggets, offensively, they can roll with anybody, including the Warriors. Let me repeat. The Nuggets, offensively, can roll with anybody, including the Warriors. Yes, I'm saying it. However, it's always that other end that everybody seems to forget about until a team lose that, you know, this stands out to me. I've seen the Nuggets, when they're engaged, they do a good job, very good job on the defensive end. Then, like so many teams in the playoffs, both East and West, they have lapses, mental lapses that just are head scratchers. I've seen the Nuggets this year have a 15-point lead. I'll get up, go get some chips and a soda, pop, depending on where you're from. Where is it from when you're in New York, Brother Rich? What is it, pop or soda? Is it soda?
Soda.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, New York, Brooklyn style, baby. But anyway, I'll get up, go get me some chips, chili cheese Fritos, by the way, y'all. Get me a soda, and come back and sit down. All of a sudden, they down 5. And I'm like, what happened? I checked my watch. That was 7 minutes. Not even then. What happened? Mental lapses on defense. So, to your point, so to speak, Double J, the Spurs, I would not be surprised because Pop been at it for a while now. Despite his seeding, Pop know what he doing. Experience is a factor. That's also another, we know when it comes to a playoff or a round robin. Experience is underrated, I believe. The Spurs could knock the Nuggets off, and I would not be surprised by it, okay? But I also wouldn't be surprised to see the Nuggets actually end up in the Western Conference Finals against the Warriors, who we all feel will be there as well. So, Double J, who wins this matchup?
Oh, absolutely I'm going with the Spurs. I think it's ultimately just a bad matchup for Denver.
Hold on, wait a minute. You smells like some bias. No? It's not personal?
No,
Okay.
It is not personal against Denver, but however, again, it's simply when you look at the inside that San Antonio has, and you look at the strength and the core of how Denver gets their wins, that's the last team that you want to see.
Okay. That's all right. All right, I'll roll with you on that. But when you talk about inside, though, in particular, Brother Richard, and right quick before you weigh in, because I want you to have your say, of course, because I know you got something about them Spurs as well. LaMarcus Aldridge on the inside, fundamentally sound, fundamentally skilled. But when I watch him, man, for a big man, he don't play with that toughness that Tim Duncan played with. Tim Duncan will get in the post. And I'm not comparing. You know, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying if you're big and you're on that block, you know, you gotta be an anchor. You know what I mean? Like them ships that sail on the Bering Sea. When I drop anchor, you ain't going nowhere. Despite the high tides and all that or whatever stuff, just the waves, you ain't going nowhere. When Duncan used to get on that block, man, you couldn't move him. Not even Shaq. Shaq said, man, that's the reason why I call that dude the big fundamental. Because when and Timmy wasn't big, you know, like Shaq was girth-wise and all of that stuff, muscular. But when Timmy got down, man, you couldn't move him. He was an anchor. Aldridge fades away too much. He's too light on his feet at times. You know what I mean? But he'll drop 35 in a heartbeat, and you'll see it like, wow, okay, the Spurs won by 12, and you look to the left, and you'll see a direct correlation as to why, because he'll have a big game. So we'll see. But that interior, I just want to see be more of an anchor. Go ahead, Brother Rich. Have you say?
Well, I'm on the Denver bandwagon right now because I'm thinking, I'm seeing that there's a reason why San Antonio is where they are, because the heart and soul of that team, yeah, they got great players, but the heart and soul of that team is what you're talking about. And that they don't have any, who's the identifiable heart and soul player? Manu is gone. Tim Duncan is gone. Kawhi is gone. He's quiet, but he's a ball player. He keeps it going. So right now you have a collection of great players, no doubt about that. And they are not to be taken lightly by anyone. I just think there's more fire in the belly of the Denver Nuggets right now, and they're coming out party, if you will, so to speak, and in this opportunity to show what their season has been really about.
You know, and speaking of the Nuggets, you know who's played very well for them this year? Paul Millsap. He's having a phenomenal season, man. He's that rock. You know, I won't say who he reminds me of, but he's that anchor I just mentioned. You know, like Joe Johnson was once upon a time. You know what I mean? He just a rock for them on both ends of the floor. So I don't know. I think this would be a very interesting series, but to be honest, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised either way. All right, we slide over to the East and the Eastern Conference matchups. I know you all are ready for this one, Double J. We're going to come back to you on this one because in this first 1-8 matchup, your boys are in it, so to speak. Of course, you got the 1-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. And as it stands, let me mention that, as it stands, or as I'm looking at it here, the 8-seeded Detroit Pistons. Double J, go.
It's an awful matchup for the Pistons, unfortunately, even with the addition, by taking Thon Maker from Milwaukee. They don't have enough. Giannis is too much. And, you bring up an interesting point when about LaMarcus Aldridge. I see a lot of that lack of intensity from Andre Drummond, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
They're a piece or two short from making a significant run. If they were able to improve the point guard position, I think a lot would change. I'm hopeful that not only will they get in, but I'm hopeful that with the remaining two games that they have this evening against Memphis, and then of course concluding with the Knicks, that they can end up going against Toronto, which again that puts Toronto's former coach against them, and I think that's where an could be had.
Yeah, got you. And you brought up an interesting point about the point guard. I'll mention that next. But, Brother Richard, go ahead and have your say.
I can't disagree with anything you just said.
Okay, well, in that case, I'll go ahead and have my say in regards to the Detroit Piston point guard situation. Don't get me wrong. I like Reggie Jackson. He's still over there, right? Because I haven't seen their games the last couple of days. I just want to make sure I'm getting this right because you all know senility. Okay, Double J, you didn't say no, so I'm going to go ahead and roll with it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He has no concept whatsoever of what a true point guard is and should be. We got a caller on the line here. Give me a second. Let me bring him in. Caller, what is your name and where are you calling from? And we appreciate you for calling the Shot Report. We are discussing the 2019 NBA playoffs and the potential matchups. Go.
Yeah, my name is D. Gully, calling from Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, boy, really? The show's almost over. But go ahead. What do you want to say? This guy here.
Well, my thoughts were you were looking at the different matchups here in Eastern Conference.
Right now,
I think each of them.
You were discussing the Milwaukee Bucks and the Detroit Pistons, possibly. So go ahead.
Yeah, I think even though it's the East, I guess because it's the East, I think this matchup will probably be entertaining. I'm not certain. I'm not looking for a sweep here by Milwaukee, but I don't think that's a sign that Milwaukee is a weak team. I think matchups make, styles make fights and boxing. Matchups make for entertaining series in basketball. So I think we might see some good basketball. I especially am looking for Blake Griffin to have a really, really productive series, one that showcases that he still has a lot more to offer for a team. So hopefully Detroit can get the rest of what they have together to actually make a competitive team. If not, he'd be a great, great addition to any future contender in the East or West.
Yeah, and to finish my point about Reggie Jackson, I just mentioned Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum about having a good floor game. And, as a point guard, man, I know we get locked into, what happened then and now and so on and so forth. I just say, okay, forget the position. If you're a guy who's handling the ball all the time, the idea is, and you saw what Virginia did last night in the national championship, the idea is basketball is not about positions as much as it is about how you play. The idea that everybody dribbles more time off the clock to get a shot is unbelievable to me. And then they have the nerve to act like they don't understand why they didn't win. Why all of these guys out here, not all, but a lot of guys with these triple doubles and all of that, and they come in attached with L's. Hello, you ain't figured it out? Man, just play the game the way, in the most efficient way possible. And I'm telling you now, it's from I just don't see efficiency for the most part on offense. And from him in particular, talented, athletic, all that kind of stuff. But he looks for his own shot more than he do anybody else and anything else out there. They don't seem to play, the Pistons don't. Because they've got, like you said, Double J with Drummond and, and Jackson and Blake for whatever the case may be, and Thon or whatnot. They've got enough pieces where it shouldn't, when you watch them play, it shouldn't look incongruent. Huh? Why does it look incongruent? Well, the guy the quarterback, so to speak, he's throwing the ball up in the air and catching it himself and then trying to run for a first down. It don't work well. I don't like Reggie Jackson as a point guard for that team and any other team. I don't even like him for the Shanghai Sharks, to tell you the truth. I'll take Jimmy Fredette, and I don't like him either. But anyway, yeah, I'm picking the Bucks too. I think it'll be over in 3. Just kidding. Over in 2. But, the Bucks, Giannis and all of them, that's one of them series. That's a tune-up series, so to speak, if it's, of course, in fact, the Detroit Pistons. All right, let's move over to, or should I say slide down a tier. What about them Boston Celtics and them Indiana Pacers? The Boston Celtics, of course, being the 4 seed and the Pacers being the 5. Now, just reported, and when I say just reported, maybe about, a day or so ago here, that Jason Tatum, I believe, got injured. Can anybody, one of you three, fill me in on that? Because I didn't get to see the whole ordeal. Kind of like caught my eye, so to speak. Anybody know anything about Jason Tatum being injured? No? Maybe? Anybody?
I certainly don't.
Okay. Double J, what about you? No?
Well, it's from Tatum. It's not just Tatum. I believe there was also Marcus Smart.
Oh, wow. Marcus Smart, too. Unfortunately, Gully has left us. Bye. You could have said bye first, Gully. You see what I'm saying? This guy here, man, I'm telling you, in and out, in and out. But go ahead. Marcus Smart as well?
Yeah. So with Tatum, you know, his MRI was clean, and Smart, he had the left oblique contusion, so again, essentially just a sprain, but he's feeling better.
Gotcha.
And so both good news. I think minor, just the timing makes it major.
You know what? Let me ask both of you all this, and Brother Rich, you can answer first if you would. This is interesting to me. With the success that the Celtics had last season in getting to a Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and all those young guys, Brown, Tatum, and all them guys, Scary Terry, and all them guys having success and building to, you know, a bond or sort of continuity. And now this year you add, of course, Hayward and Kyrie to the mix, and they seem to be off kilter some. Will that rear its ugly head, or will that derail them possibly this season? I mean, on this playoffs, the Celtics?
I don't believe so. I believe that Boston is one of those teams that's waiting for the playoffs. I believe that they have immense talent, and if the only thing that is going to derail them until they get probably to Milwaukee or Philadelphia is injury, because as far as talent and the pool of talent that they have, I don't think that you can really compare them to any team in the East Coast. They have superior talent on that team. And certainly they have one of the league's best closers, finishers in Kyrie. So the thought is that Kyrie, in the moments that they're going to need him in the playoffs, these things are ideally suited for him to show his mettle.
Okay, that's fair. I'm with that. Well, I'll say this too, though, right quick. There's something amiss about the Celtics all season long, and I don't think it can be ignored. Now, that's not saying that they won't win this series, but again, I'll do like once upon a time, and I'm using the NFL as a reference here. It was a time when you just knew. You remember how you get the newspaper, the sports page, if you were a bettor or a gambler, not what they're saying I was, but you get the list of games and they, you know, give you the odds and so on and so forth and the point spreads. Every time seemed like whenever it was the Giants with Phil Simms and the 49ers with Joe Montana, that was always a pick'em game. Well, this series to me, despite Kyrie and Tatum and Hayward and all of that, and the loss of Oladipo, even with that, I still say this is a pick'em series. The Celtics are susceptible. And in other circles, they might use the word vulnerable. They have been amiss all season long. It's like that 5-cylinder car you got. One of them cylinders, them chambers is not firing right. Something is wrong. It's still running, but something is wrong here. Now, I could be wrong. And, I mean, apparently me picking Texas Tech to win the national championship, that too was wrong. Again, congratulations, fellas. But, oh, well, hold on a second here. Gully has decided to join us again. You know, I'm going to say something to him right quick. Gully, you there?
Man, I hope you don't put me on blast. I really do. I hope you don't put me on blast.
Hold on. You know you about to get it. We are not about to do this whole hokey pokey, put your left foot in, put your right foot out with you, okay? Ain't going to be no double dutching here, okay? If you're in, you're in. If you're out and you're not, then I'm going to need you to have a seat on. That's what I'm going to need you to do. I'm going to need you to go stand in the corner and put your nose in it, okay? Me and Brother Rich and Brother Jay, we've been rolling here, okay? We rolling right now. You in or you out? Which one you gonna do?
I'm on the phone now, brother. We're gonna cherish the time we have.
Okay.
While we here.
No, we gonna. I was gonna say that regardless. But anywho, as I was saying, there's something amiss about the Celtics. I could be wrong, but this series to me is a pick'em, and I'm gonna tell you why from this Pacers side of things. Why I think this is a pick'em. They still have enough depth, okay? And it's always scary to me to see a team that's actually, as Brother Richard mentioned earlier, when we talk about team. You remember a while back we discussed or we talked about, give me those 5 names versus them 5 guys who wanted more, okay? Hey, do not be surprised if this series goes 7 games. That's all I'm telling you. And it's going to come down to a crunch time type moment. Now, to Brother Richard's point, Kyrie was built for that, okay? But with Nate McMillan on the other side of the thing, who he himself has been in some crunch time moments as a player, hey, to Brother Richard's point.
And as a coach.
Yeah, of course. But to Brother Rich's one of his other points, come down to coaching, right, Brother Rich?
Absolutely.
And in this instance, I ask you, if it comes down to that moment, I'm asking all three of you all, and I'll start with you, Gully, who you taking, Brad Stevens or Nate McMillan? Yes or no, or go?
It will be a push. I think it's going to be up to the personnel on the floor. I think egos aside, when it's crunch time,
No.
how
You're
much
not
is on
answering
the
the
table
question.
for Boston.
You're not answering the question. Let me repeat the question.
I
just
am
need an
answering the question.
No, I need an answer to the
The
question.
question is going to be Brad Stevens. Easy.
Okay, thank you.
And
Hello.
I hate to say easy. I hate to say easy in like to be totally dismissive of Nate McMillan.
That's what you're
but
doing.
I think Brad Stevens. But no, I think Brad Stevens. Listen, I like Audis and I like Chevys. Which one am I going to take if I had them? I'm going to take the Audi. And as much as I like my Buick Regal, but I'm going to take an Audi when I see an Audi presented to me in choice of left or right. I'm going to take Brad Stevens.
Hold that thought. Which one is it? Is it going to be an Audi, a Chevy, or a Buick Regal? Make up my mind. Okay.
It's going to be the Buick A4 with the 3.8 liter North Star V8.
Got you. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, Double J, go ahead and have you say.
Well, I'm going to go with Brad Stevens only because of, again, to Gully's point with the personnel. However, this is a very much a tale of two very different teams and how they go to market. We talked about skill players for Boston and having all the right pieces versus the no-frills team that truly understands, the roles that they're in and how every individual essentially is going to get their job done with the Pacers. And by and large, that's, credit to Nate McMillan. For me personally, I think it's a very difficult call between Coach of the Year for Nate McMillan or Doc Rivers.
Yeah, well, I can't argue that either. Yeah, I still say at the end of the day, this is a pick'em. This is a pick'em series. If the Pacers win this series, okay, because I'm bound to be right at least one time this year. Okay, all right.
At least once.
At least once. Thank you, Brother Richard, for the for the vote of confidence. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. This is a pick'em series to me. This is really a pick'em series. Who you got, Brother Rich, winning this? You taking the Celtics? I'm sure. Is that what you're doing?
Celtics all day.
Yeah, got you. Okay, so let me go around the table one more again so we can make sure in this particular matchup, Celtics and Pacers. Gully, you got who?
Celtics.
Right. Double J, you got who? Who you got, Double J?
Let's see, between, again, the teams?
Yes, the Celtics and the Pacers.
Oh, no, we covered that. I'm going with the Celtics.
Okay, I know that, but I'm just measuring twice and cutting once here. I'm just making sure, all right, that we got this recorded. Gully said the Celtics. You're saying Double J the Celtics. Brother Rich, you're saying the Celtics, right?
Celtics.
And I'm saying the Pacers, technically, but pick them. But technically, I'm saying, here we go. Here's another Texas Tech UVA moment. I can feel it. Goodness gracious. Okay, let's move on. We got the 3 seed Philadelphia 76ers and the 6 seed, again, potentially, as I'm looking at it here, the Brooklyn Nets. Brother Rich, we're going to start with you. Brooklyn's in the house. Who you got?
Well, they got a problem on their hands.
Oh,
they just got
my
a problem.
gosh.
It ends for them now. It ends for Brooklyn right now.
What? I can't believe you. What, man? Man, come to the shop.
It ends for Brooklyn. It ends for Brooklyn right now.
Well, I'm going to need you to walkouts are not welcome. I don't know. Double J, what about you? What you say? Who you got? Philly, Brooklyn?
Definitely Philly.
Okay, so Brother Rich picking Philly, Double J picking Philly. Gully, who you rolling with?
The Sixers.
You know what? You know what? That's it. I'm muting everybody, all right? I'm going to finish the show out by myself. Philly should win. All right? On paper, off paper, at the car wash, in the subway, any other scenario situation, Philly should win. But them Brooklyn Nets, man, you know, they like one of them summertime mosquitoes, and you forgot your off. Huh? You hear it, but you can't. And he just, they eating you up. That's what them Nets do. They eat you up. This one going 7, fellas. And guess what? I'm picking the Brooklyn Nets. Huh? Holla at your boy. I'm picking the Brooklyn Nets. We got 2 UVA Texas Tech moments jumping off right here. You got to keep track of this thing, all right? And I'm going to tell you why I'm picking the Brooklyn Nets in addition to...
Good luck with that.
Yeah, I figured you was going to chime in.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, okay, got you. Yeah. I'm picking the Brooklyn Nets, man, because they have a balance, believe it or not, on both ends of the floor. They're not going to be easy out. I'm telling you that right now. I'm picking them to win it. Shoot. Philly, Ben Simmons, yeah, because it's going to come down to a free throw situation. You guess who I trust more so in a free throw situation in this series? I trust D'Angelo over Ben Simmons. Huh? I like Ben Simmons. Gifted. All of those things. Attributes out the wazooski. But you all know. You all have watched enough Sixer games to know. When you see him in certain moments, you got your fingers crossed. Now tell me I'm lying. I want everybody on this panel right now to tell me I'm lying. Yeah.
No, that's absolutely the truth.
Yeah, it's some question marks. It's some question marks in the moments that you shouldn't have to question if he is what everybody say he is and his impact. And, you know, and again, I like him. But, you know, I don't know. It's just a few more players on the Brooklyn Nets on that side of the ball who handle the ball a lot that I trust more in situations that could decide the outcome of a series. Hello. With all due respect to Joel Embiid, you know, but I done seen him get blocked a couple times. I don't know what's going on with Joel, man, but I don't know. Got to go back down there in that paint. All right, and last but not least, to round things out, and we'll be done for the day, fellas, we filled out a big show today. Let me get that call-in number one more time before we get out of here with this last portion of last. Area code 267-687-0026. We told y'all we was going to be commercial-free. We didn't know we was going to have the technical difficulty, but nonetheless, we are here towards the end. Again, that number is area code 267-687-0026. And the last matchup in the Eastern Conference, as it stands, again, what I'm looking at, number 2 seeded Toronto Raptors and the number 7 seeded, hold on, let me give them a shout out, Orlando Magic. For making the playoffs this year, then nobody think that they would. Hey, and let me say right now, and then I'm going to let y'all eat. They're not going to be no easy out either. But guess what, though? The Raptors got Kawhi. That's my boy. Brother Rich, it's on you. Holla at your boy.
Toronto. Real plain and simple, Toronto. They can't rock with them. They don't want nothing.
Yeah, I don't
know
think
what
so.
it is.
Yeah. You talk about Double J. It's on you now, Double J. You talk about matchups. I mean, my gosh. This is about as lopsided a matchup as there is in any of the matchups throughout the playoffs. You think?
No, without a doubt. Orlando, I'm hopeful that they slide to the 8th spot just to again make things a little bit more interesting for the 2-7 matchup because they're going to get swept regardless of opponent.
What? You know what? Sometimes I be asking myself, why do my co-hosts, mad love for my co-hosts, why do they jump out the plane at 50,000 feet with no parachute? This guy, this is crazy. Double J, I told you, man, don't be a DB Cooper. Huh? Bring the money back. Anyway, I don't think
unless Brian Hill gets out of the talk show booth there in Orlando, there's no way.
Yeah, I heard about that too. All right, Gully, go ahead, have your say, man. Who wins this series and why?
The Toronto Raptors win the series easily with the amount of depth and star power that they have. Man, you have the Claw in the East, the best defender, ball-on defender in the league still continuously. with the offensive production, with the depth. You have Serge Ibaka on the block. You have Mark Gasol. You have enough depth to easily, well, not to easily, you have enough depth to get out the East and to contend with anybody in the West. So I don't see how the Orlando Magic, as upstarted as they are, pose a threat to the Raptors. I'm looking for the Raptors to sweep.
All right. So I, too, am looking for the Raptors to win this series. But let me point this out to you all and all of you all who are out there listening. Again, I want to say thank you to the John, and I didn't get the other guy's name from New York, the other NYCs. Let me point this out to you all, something about the Raptors. Number one, Pascal Siakam. More so than the Claw, watch what he do in this series. That guy is a difference maker. I can't even find a good adjective to describe. When I watch him play, man, for the most part, isn't he up for most improved player, or didn't he win for something like that? Double J, Gully, Brother Rich, isn't he up for most improved player? Pascal Siakam.
Yes, he is. He absolutely is.
Yeah, dude is nice, man. He a ball player for real on both ends. You know what I mean? He got that energy. You know what I mean? You can't buy that, at Walmart, whether you roll back the prices or not. But I'm also going to tell you something else about them Raptors. Now, again, they have more than enough to get through this first round, if it's indeed the Orlando Magic. But it's going forward where I think this other guy could be the detriment to the Raptors. Kyle Lowry. No disrespect to the man personally. Don't know him. But even all...
And he's being real harsh now.
Oh, what? Man, Kyle Lowry. Man, listen here. Listen here. Okay, look, if you think I'm being harsh, go back and look at Kyle Lowry. Any game that he's been in Toronto, since he's been in Toronto in the playoffs, and tell me something that he did that didn't show up as detrimental to the Raptors. Huh? That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Look, I don't know the guy personally. I really don't. But, man, I'm telling you, I say the same thing about him, maybe not to the same degree that I used to say about Lance Stevenson when he was with the Pacers. Lance is a caricature at times. I said, man, he's going to have a Lance moment when they were battling the Cavs last year. And, of course, Lance Stevenson, had some Lance Stevenson-type moments that make you say, man, what in the world?
Indeed.
Okay. For whatever reason, man, Kyle Lowry, I don't know. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what to call it, man. He just had, and the guy can, all the way back to Villanova. I love them Nova Cats, but it's just something about his game, man. He'll have 50. He could have, no, I don't say 15. He'll have 10 dimes in the game. You'd be like, oh, statistically, that's great. But you watch him, man. You ever watched, on the flip side, you ever watched a guy, or watch the game and a guy that you like or whatever have 35 points, and you be like, man, that was a quiet 35 because I watched the game. I ain't really see it, or whatever. Kyle Lowry will be in the game. He had 10 dimes, 15 points, or whatever. You be like, oh, okay, but you like, I really didn't see it. I don't see the impact. Kyle Lowry, man, I'm telling y'all right now. I'm telling you, if he don't have a Kyle Lowry moment at some point throughout these playoffs, then okay, then I can see the Raptors and the Bucks when it's all said and done in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I just got this feeling, man, and I could be wrong because I had a feeling again about Texas Tech. But hey. I'm not going to be wrong all the time. Like, you know what my saying is. I might not always be right, but I'm never wrong, right? I shouldn't say that. So, yeah. I'm saying watch the Toronto Raptors going forward and keep your eye on Kyle Lowry. Gentlemen, I want to thank you for a great show, commercial-free, technical difficulty notwithstanding. It was a great show. And on that note, it's been fun, but we got to run. We appreciate y'all for listening. Don't forget to check us out right here on the Spreaker.com network. You go to the search box and you type in the Shop Report. Or you can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, and, of course, via email, the shopreport365@gmail.com. And now you can check us out on Spotify. That's right, I said Spotify. And if that don't work, Google it. You hear what I say? Google it. For my guest in NYC, a.k.a. Rucker Park, Brother Richard, my man up north, Double J, and over to the right, D. Gully, and all those who follow us on social media. We want to say thank you for your support. I'm Barbershop Jaden. You'll be listening to the Shop Report. And remember, the next time y'all want to know what's really going on, man, come to the shop. Walk-ins are always welcome. Holla.